On the pasuk Vayikach Korach, and Korach took, so the Targum Onkelos says Vispale Korach. Korach perpetuated a schism. And in source 1, Rashi states that Korach asked the question. And in fact, the way the Medrash describes it is he took all 250 men and dressed them up in a talis shekulo tchela, and asked, is a talis which is entirely made of tchelas, blue wool, required to have tzitzis, which contains a tchelik strand, or is it exempt? Is it enough just to have that outer cloth without the strings coming from it? When Moshe exclaimed that it certainly is required to have tzitzis, Korach scoffed. If a single thread of tchelet is sufficient for an entire talis, why shouldn't a talis composed entirely of tchelet exempt itself? And the Medrash in Bamidbar Rabbah adds another question posed by Korach. Is a room full of sacred books exempt from a mezuzah or not? Again, when Moshe responded in the affirmative, Korach scoffed. If a single mezuzah exempts an entire room, then a room full of sacred books should obviously, certainly exempt itself. Korach was actually alluding to the idea that Klal Yisrael, which is entirely composed of many holy individuals, should not require the services of an intermediary such as Moshe or Aaron between them and Hashem. He felt that Klal Yisrael as a group could communicate with Hashem directly. And that's why his major focus of his argument is found in the pasuk, Ki kol eda kulam kadoshim. The entire assembly is holy. Uvetocham Hashem, and Hashem is amidst them. Umadua tinasua kal Hashem. Why do you raise yourself over the congregation? This was an all-out war against the authority of Moshe and Aaron, when Klal Yisrael could have the ability to communicate directly with God without any intermediaries. Just on a technical level, the Mefarshim note, this is source 4 and 5, that the reason why these two examples were chosen, when many could have been chosen, why specifically the example of the talus and the mezuzah? So the talus connects with the end, the smichus parshios of the end of Parshat Shlach, which is a mitzvah tzitzit, and that connects the two stories together. And perhaps as the Klal Yakar notes, that the idea of mezuzah is hinted at in the pasuk that Datan and Aviram went out, Yatsu nitzavim petach aleim. They went out standing at the entrance of their tents. Perhaps that's a hint at the mitzvah of mezuzah at the entrance of their tent. But both tzitzis and mezuzah have in common is zechiros mitzvos Hashem, reminding oneself of the mitzvos of Hashem. We know that tzitzis, Feirish pasuk, that you see the tzitzis uzachartem, you remember the mitzvos of Hashem. And by mezuzah you have the Rambam in source 5, v'chosman shikanes v'yitzei, when you go in and out of a room, v'yifgabi yichud Hashem, and you meet up with the oneness of God through the mezuzah, the shmo shel kodesh brichu, v'yizkor avato, v'yeor mishnato v'shneotav be'evlei asman. You remember God's love for you. You awaken from the stupor of time. V'yeda she'ein davar homed olam u'lamei olamim. And you realize that nothing lasts forever. El yediah surah olam, but rather the knowledge of God. U'miyadu chazer l'dato v'olech b'darchei meisharim, and then goes on the straight path. So what mezuzah and tzitzis have in common is the awareness of God. And that's really what Korach was arguing. We have the awareness of God. Ki kol eda kulam kadoshim. The whole nation is holy. Why do you need umaduati nasua kal Hashem? Why do you need to raise yourself above the entire assembly? Why do you need that string of tchelet? Why do you need the mezuzah? That's a simple interpretation. The Maral adds the dimension of the mezuzah connects to Moshe Rabbeinu. The talus connects to Aaron HaKohen. He's arguing over both of their positions, but be that as it may, that's a simple understanding of this medrash. I'd like to try on two levels, and we'll see they'll be very similar, just one a bit deeper than the other, to try to understand perhaps a little bit more deeply what Korach is arguing. We know Korach was a pikeach. He was a very brilliant person. He was a great person. What was the argument of Korach? What was he trying to underscore here? And clearly, what's the lesson for our lives? And what we also need to understand on both levels is that we know that the punishment fits the crime. Why is it that Korach is punished with the ground opening up and he's swallowed with no trace of them ever existing, right? The ground just completely, almost like eradicates them completely from existence. How is that parallel with what their complaint is, based on, if we say their complaint is the Tal Shekulot Chele and the mezuzah? We're going to focus primarily, as the title indicates, on the talus, the imagery of the talus, but we'll touch on as well the inyan mezuzah as well. The first level, I'd like to look at the writings of Rav Grossbard and Dat Shraga, then develop them with the writings of Rav Rice in Mirosh Surim, and then bring it down to a contemporary level in the writings of Rav Freifeld, and that will be level 1.